Go ahead and get started.
Let's do this. Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend some time with us today, specifically on the broadcast side and in that vertical, which is near and dear to me, that was my former life. But my name is Elizabeth Bernberg. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development here at AdCellerant. Really excited to, again, be with you all today. And we have an amazing special guest here. We have Miss Kelly Freeler with Leighton Engage, Leighton Broadcasting, who has graciously extended some of her time and obviously some of her amazing insight she's going to be sharing with us today on, of course, digital marketing with the broadcasting vertical and how it kind of integrates together to really create a meaningful business strategy for broadcasters, but of course, a meaningful strategy for the end client, right? The clients and businesses that we're supporting. And I'm joined here today by my friend and colleague, Mr. Ben Bauslag. He is our Vice President of Business Development. Please know, y'all, that we are going to be recording this. So if anyone's unable to join, don't worry about that. We're going to send a follow-up. We are also going to send you a copy of the deck and presentation itself. But we also would love this to be, conversational as well. So any particular questions that you might have, please use that chat feature. Please use that Q&A, and we'll be able to address it during today's webinar. Awesome. Well, let's get to it. Agenda for today. So we're just going to be, going over, of course, who AdCellerant is, what we're all about. And we're going to specifically spend a little bit of time on our software solution, our proprietary software solution, our really amazing methodology to support with our team members, and how that goes about, of course, supporting our partners grow in the digital space. We'll get into some partnership details, but then, the main show is connecting with Kelly and really having her kind of speak to these elements and how Leighton Engage has really expanded and grown so much by these digital solutions. But again, at the end of the day, supporting clients in the marketplace. We'll touch on some key categories and, of course, ways of getting started. There is an appendix in this deck that we will be sharing with everyone. We're not going to be going through that today, but a lot of great intel in there. So please be sure to check that out. So first and foremost, who is AdCellerant? What are we all about? So AdCellerant is a technology company and a digital marketing company. And at the crux of every single thing that we do, whether it's sales, engineering, product development, support, our goal, our mission is to make the complex simple. That's it. We want to be sure that our partners are easily able to leverage these products and solutions as their own in the marketplace and really do what they do best, sell, right? So at the end of the day, AdCellerant is a white labeled digital wholesale partner. We offer the full gamut of products and solutions in our toolkit that, again, enable you to be able to add these to your product stack to further support that advertiser and really lean into all these capabilities to support their growth and their ROI. What really does separate us, of course, is this proprietary technology, this total digital agency software solution that we've built out ourselves that really integrates that digital sales process from sales enablement, really customized sales enablement, campaign management and execution to where the rubber meets the road in reporting. Right? We're all based here in Denver, Colorado. I'm in a booth right now in the office. It's a crazy day in the office. It's buzzing with energy, tons of people. We love it. But I wanted to share with you, we grew during the pandemic. We're about double our size. I was employee number 86, and we have amazing team members across the United States. I love pointing out too, real quickly, that we don't outsource anything either. So anyone and everyone you speak to, they're part of the AdCellerant team. They're a part of our ecosystem and really creating a better and more bolder solution for our partners, and for the marketplace in general. So, so you're speaking to the real people behind the scenes here at AdCellerant. When it comes to kudos, we've got a few. We love sharing them. Inc. Magazine's top 5,000 fastest growing companies. 4th year in a row. Super humbled by that accolade. But in all honesty, it's the amazing work that our partners like Kelly with Leighton and other partners, whether it's print or magazines, broadcast, radio, television. It's how y'all are really leaning into these solutions, leaning into the partnership and the support. And again, helping your advertisers at the end of the day. You're growing your revenue on average right now, 30% year over year when partnered with AdCellerant. So amazing, amazing growth right there. And to sum it all up, this is really what we do. It's white labeled solution partnership. We train your sales team. We support your sales team. We help with pipeline development. We even join you on sales calls to get those deals over the finish line. We fulfill and manage every single campaign. So on the execution side, you do not have to worry about that heavy lifting. And then of course, at the end of the day, when it shows to that tangible ROI, what kind of metrics is the client seeing at the end of the day after running their campaign? We've got amazing transparent reporting at your fingertips that enables you to really share that story of success. What worked, what didn't, what kind of metrics and deliverables did you see, Mr. Advertiser? And how can we improve on this again and again to make sure we're reaching your goals and objectives? Solutions, y'all see it here. I touched on it earlier. We're the full gamut, the whole kit and caboodle from all things programmatic, streaming television, social media, SEM, SEO, you name it, we've got it. And the tiers of advertisers. I love pointing this out because, we're dealing with a lot of different partners. I mean, even late and engaged. They're in different size markets, right? There's some bigger markets, some smaller markets, and that could be representative of the kinds of advertisers that you're dealing with, right? So we want to be sure that we're supporting our partners at every single level. We want to be sure that you're diversifying your client mix and giving them access to these capabilities. So whether it's your small mom and pops, local SEO capabilities, or you really need that white glove, really sophisticated kind of agency approach for a large scale deal, we've got our AdCellerant Select that kind of takes that more boutique approach with those larger spending advertisers. This is UI.Marketing right here. So kind of transitioning over to the software solution that really is the crux of that value proposition, along with our people, along with the people power, as I call it, that really creates the success, the scalability, and the growth for our partners. So UI.Marketing, again, integrates all things in that digital sales process. You've got your proposal development right up here. You've got your reporting, your dashboards, the access to those deliverables. You've also got our knowledge base. This is all things training, video vignettes, case studies, one sheets. You do not have to reinvent the wheel when either looking to enhance your digital capabilities, or maybe you're starting fresh and new, and this is a new arm of your business. We offer all of those solutions right here, so you can really hit the ground running and lean on us to really do that heavy lifting for you. I'm going to kick it off to my friend, Mr. Ben Bauslog, right over here, to really speak to the operations side of AdCellerant and how these are key differentiators and how we really go about business, right? Our methodology to supporting our partners.
Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. The scorecard is something that we're so incredibly proud to share with everybody because we've worked very, very hard to make sure we can, see these kinds of scores on the screen that we see right now. It comes down to, and I think, based off of the most unique approach that we have focused on our operations and fulfillment of paying our ops people like salespeople, it really goes the extra mile, and not just one extra mile. It's every extra mile that's absolutely needed here. Because these people have financial incentives and have more buy-in on the success of your campaigns, we're seeing higher retention rates. We're seeing higher quality traffic. We're seeing better fulfillment rates. So you don't need to be, shifting impressions around, and you're able to really grow yourselves. I'm really proud of the last one as well. Our partner retention rate over here. People partner up with us. It's not uncommon for, it's not totally uncommon for people to move away from the AdCellerant platform. But the only time that really happens is when certain companies purchase a partner that we're working with, and then they actually start to use a different digital agency solution. But our partners are typically growing themselves 30% year over year when they're leveraging the AdCellerant platform. I know Kelly's going to be able to talk about it a little bit more later as well. We're almost, I think we're coming up on 10, 11 months of our partnership together with Late and Engage. So I know Kelly's going to speak to that a little bit. I want to really focus on helping you guys understand that our entire team is bought in on your campaign. So when we provide better performance and better customer service, everybody gets a bigger bonus at the AdCellerant office here. So and the last part I would say about this is our own employee retention rates. It's actually right around the same as our partner retention rates. We do typically pay our employees about 50% higher than you see across the rest of the industry. So that's where you're getting the people who are bending over backwards to make you successful too, because our success is not going to come unless you are successful as well. When we come to reporting, this is really, really important. And I know before we started working with Kelly, you talked about reporting definitely being an important facet to, hey, how do I make sure that what we have, we're able to tell a sweet, kind of pedestrian level, consistent story of success for those clients, right? I believe the statistic is 65% of advertisers do not renew campaigns because they don't have the transparency into reporting of what they really need to see here. So being able to track phone calls, show form fills, look at on-site page conversions, foot traffic conversions, and being able to articulate a real story of success based off of the most important success metrics there is really the thing that helps you go further there. So the AdCellerant dashboard is an all-in-one dashboard where you can get all of your reporting needs for all of these different advertising platforms. On top of that, it is completely white label too, so you guys get to call it your own. On the next slide here, we continue. Looks like we're having a technical issue. It's okay. Oh, looks like we're about to introduce Kelly. Elizabeth, I'll let you take that away.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reporting, the solutions, the software, right? The easy access to all of this, that AdCellerant provides, but really, again, the attention to detail from people, from actual support that is going to help you, your team members really understand, grab onto these solutions, and then at the end of the day, really maximize those opportunities with your advertisers. That's the huge differentiator right there. And I am so excited to really now introduce to you, the star here, Ms. Kelly Freeler. Kelly is the Executive Director for Digital for Leighton Broadcasting, a media company with 26 radio stations across 6 markets, and Leighton Engage, a media-born digital marketing agency. In her role as Executive Director of Digital, Kelly is responsible for top-line digital revenue growth, strategic planning, and education for her sellers and on-air talent. So this amazing woman is wearing a lot of different hats and being successful at every single one of them. So I would love to welcome Kelly, and let's get into the fun conversation about it. Well, first of all, how are you?
Doing well. It's hot out here, so I'm really happy to be inside today.
Right. Everyone remember to drink water. It is hot summer right now, right? Hydrate. Well, let's start really, let's start from the beginning. Please, if you wouldn't mind, give us a bit of background about Leighton Engage, your team, your markets, and what the digital landscape was like, prior to partnering with AdCellerant.
Yeah, prior to partnering with AdCellerant, we really had my role was focused on growing kind of our owned and operated, we call it, assets. So the extensions of our radio stations. And the goal was to drive top line revenue growth there while we were building this digital marketing agency. And so it was sort of, what we decided is that we were late to this marketplace of helping our small, medium-sized businesses. We had a sister company that was helping really, really big companies. And then we were selling banner ads on our radio station websites. And we were totally missing this other opportunity. And we knew that other companies had been in that space for 10 years. So we decided that slow and steady would win the race. We didn't have to be the first to market. Instead, we had to figure out, how do we carve out a differentiating place within the market and offer something that our clients were missing or that others weren't doing well. And so what we did is we slow and steady kind of worked with a couple of clients, a handful of clients, and we internally handled all the fulfillment and execution, which meant we spent a lot of time building stuff instead of having client conversations and having reporting meetings that were really solid. So we spent a lot of time building and creating things. And so we had a natural capacity constraint very early. So we were starting to look for, we need a partnership. We need somebody that can enable us to take on more clients now that we've sort of refined who it is that we want to work with. So that slow and steady approach kind of gave us that opportunity to figure out who were the clients that we wanted to work with. And that helped us figure out what kind of partnership do we want in somebody that's going to fulfill and execute, that will kind of keep those standards that we had and the expectations that we wanted to meet.
Absolutely. And I love what you mentioned too, making sure that the focus on differentiators was still paramount, and the value prop, right? That Leighton was bringing to the table outside of the products, right? And outside of these extension solutions. Tell me a little bit about, can you expand on that, those differentiators, and, how you went about really approaching the value of, I think that's at a core.
Yeah, I think some of those things that you mentioned, reporting and the transparency is awesome, but really for us, one of the biggest things that's helped is like the nuanced insights that we get from the campaign managers, saying, hey, we made this tweak, this is what it's going to result in, and here's how we're going to see some changes in the campaign, and here's why we did it. That type of information that we can bring to clients. I was really concerned that having a white label partner, we wouldn't be able to have that type of communication, that would be hard to have, that it would sort of be up to us to interpret all of it, and we'd still be building just different things. But that's one of the things that has been really helpful in us in terms of being able to elevate sort of who it is that we're working with, and also the asks that we have, right. And also the retention that we have within our clients, because we have that ability to go to campaign managers and lean on them to say, here's the problem that our client has, here's a solution we're thinking, what do you think? And going to the AdCellerant team and having another set of eyes to kind of help us work through that, to make sure that we're providing a high level of service. Before we joined AdCellerant, that was my biggest concern about taking this outside of our team, is not being able to walk across the hallway and have that conversation with my, reporting technical person internally. So having those quick responses from the team has enabled us to, again, scale a whole lot faster, because we don't have to build the stuff. We can send a note and a ticket and we have a response really fast.
I love that. And I think you really touch on something that, and my background is in broadcast, as I mentioned earlier, but, addressing change for a lot of people in the industry, that's where a lot of, it's scary. I get it. I mean, everyone does, getting something new, doing it a different way, and having to kind of work through maybe some, uncomfortable moments like, oh God, we got to do this. How did you approach that changing ecosystem from going from a lot of stuff internalized, with, execution and that reporting, a lot of that being managed internally with Leighton, to kind of, leaning into, as you mentioned, AdCellerant, a partner to support. Tell us a little bit about what that change was like, and kind of building that up with your team and getting them to move forward with you.
A lot of that was a realization that this stuff is changing so fast, and that we could actually better serve our clients if we had people that were experts in each particular field. And then we focused our efforts on being experts in understanding sort of an omni-channel marketing strategy and how to put all those pieces together. But having the fulfillment and the execution with partners that were like just working on SEM and really working on programmatic display or OTT would allow us to have better campaigns for clients. And again, then we found what we were going to focus on, and together it was going to be a really cool partnership. So internally, that was the conversation we had with kind of our leadership team too, is this is a way for us to better serve our clients. And we can kind of bring them high level service that they couldn't have if we tried to build this internally with our team. But I will tell you, change is not easy. So there was a lot of, as we've just increased our efforts and our focus on growing digital marketing. Sorry, go ahead. There was a delay there, Elizabeth. Go ahead.
I think we might have a couple of bandwidth issues here at the office.
I think the internet bandwidth right now is like, oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep,
okay.
We can.
We got to roll with the punches, right? roll with the flow. But I did hear everything that you, Callie, and my response was, I line from management, right? Y'all knew what you needed to do to then at the end of the day, have these better campaigns for your advertisers and better retention, right?
Yeah.
And better revenue growth. And then how that kind of really trickled down into the culture that you've built at Layton, so that the team was, you know, gravitating towards that. And this is how we're going to be supporting our clients. And this is the value that it brings not only to them, but to us. And this is how we're going to continue to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, because we're going to be doing better campaigns for our clients.
No,
I love that.
You nailed it. And I think that, you know, we had used internally a couple other solutions for programmatic, and we tracked things into Google Analytics, and the quality of the traffic is not the same as the quality of the traffic that we're getting from AdCellerant campaigns. So those things that you guys talk about in terms of, you know, having certain day parted times that you run ads and all the different things that are in those campaigns to make sure that they perform better. There's a lot of truth to it in the way that we've tracked the campaigns. We've been able to prove that. That was one of our big concerns early on is, okay, this is going to be more expensive. We found that our clients don't actually care about CPM costs unless we put it on a proposal. They ultimately care about the results that they get. Are they going to achieve the goals that they have? And they are willing to pay more for campaigns that actually get them results. So that wasn't a concern for us. Our profitability has actually increased now, adding a partner, which we didn't think was going to be possible. We were really concerned about that, but it has. So that has been a really big benefit, because we realized that what we were providing them was different and better. And they were willing to, again, they were getting better results. So it was worth it to them.
Absolutely. I mean, wow. Kudos to your team, to you. These are the kinds of stories that, I mean, just make us so incredibly, I mean, proud of what we do. You know, again, connect with their clients. Absolutely love that. Shifting gears a little bit and kind of going back to really training, right? You've been in the digital space, I mean, a long time, Kelly. We've known each other for, you know, almost a year now, and you have an amazing automotive background. You're, you know, deeply rooted into, you know, all of these technologies and how they, you know, can impact a client. But from a training standpoint, and even that sales process internally with your team, how was that disrupted, you know, with bringing on a partner? What was the outcome of kind of, you know, the training side, and then, you know, ideally creating efficiencies for your team?
Yeah, you know, the sales process, really, we had to focus on the foundational elements of doing an incredibly good discovery. And that was the foundational starting point, because it was really hard to go back to AdCellerant and do a request for a proposal or try to get some recommendations if we didn't have clarity on what the client's goals were, what their problems were. What was the pain? What was the problem? It's really hard to provide solutions-oriented proposals then, and then have a really good reporting meeting around that if we didn't get that information right away. So for us, part of it was just a shift in how we built it out too, of understanding what the maybe, you know, initially it looked like a constraint to us of, okay, if we do a request for a proposal, it's going to take X number of days. We instead now look at that as an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper and explore a little bit more on the notes that we had with the client. And we start doing some of the work on the creative and the messaging while we're building the proposal and while we're waiting for that RFP. So internally, we just made some adjustments, and we thought, how can we utilize that time to spend more time reflecting on how do we help this client continue to grow? What other ideas do we have? How are we going to, you know, present this in a way that's really meaningful? How can we add value in other ways? And then we get the RFP back, and we got a little bit of time. So now we just set an expectation, and we understand that stuff. And it has worked really, really well for our team to know and understand and have a lot of clarity and the expectations that are set from AdCellerant right up front. I will tell you, I've never had somebody that's late on what's been told to us or whatever. So there's incredible follow through that we have confidence now too, in setting expectations with clients too, on what they can expect and how quickly to expect it.
Absolutely. I love your methodology too of, when you're submitting that RFP request to AdCellerant, build out the strategy. Here's the intel, right? Here's the data from that client needs analysis. But I love that it's not just then, the latent team going, okay, we're going to sit back and then wait for AdCellerant to bring us back that RFP. You're continuing your side of strategy and development, whether it's on the creative side and the final integration of all pieces, your O&O, radio components, like what does the cohesive campaign look like together? And I bet that really creates at the end of the day a more powerful presentation and a cohesive solution that you're putting in front of the client, because it's really kind of building upon your great and owned assets, right? But the deeper thought of the creative, and then of course these digital solutions. Fantastic, absolutely. You touched on this earlier, but I'd love for you, if you wouldn't mind, Kelly, kind of digging a little bit deeper. Reporting, retention, renewal. Ben and I, we're talking to prospects and prospective partners all day, and we constantly are talking about the easiest ways to grow revenue. Right? You retain that business, you get incremental business or new business, and what's the hardest? Right? Creating new business.
Yes.
It's constantly building up that pipeline from ground one. So tell us a little bit about right now your retention and renewal strategy, and how the reporting at AdCellerant and the team has ideally supported that retention to keep and ideally grow that revenue.
Yeah, our partnerships are awesome. So in our meetings when we're kind of doing like reviews and we meet with our account manager, it's kind of there's those ongoing conversations, and she's fantastic about reminding us too of, hey, is this one renewing, or where are we at on this one? And it's an awesome reminder for us to make sure that we're proactive. One of the things we started doing, because she always asks those questions, is we actually use a project management system. So as soon as a client signs a contract now, we actually are asking that before we know she's going to ask us. We're asking in reporting meetings. So we schedule all of our reporting meetings as soon as a client signs a contract. We schedule any other checkups or touch bases or any other meetings that we're going to have throughout the 6 or 12-month campaign that they initially agree to. We set all of that as soon as they sign the contract, so that it's there and it's planned and it's scheduled. And then there's a focus on these conversations so that it doesn't feel like it's set and forget. And so that we really can take their feedback and say, here's what we're seeing on reporting. Then the conversation too gets to be about, here's impressions, here's clicks, here's conversions. What do these conversions mean in terms of monetary value to your company? So our conversations get to be about that then. So we're really focusing on real ROI for them and real dollars and ringing the till, the things that actually matter, instead of just launching a report over to them. And our team feels way more confident doing a reporting meeting like that and having those conversations, because again, I'm getting notes from campaign managers saying, I just got one. I was a marine dealer, and he said, hey, we went to an attribution-based model in their paid search campaign. Here's the expected result, just so that you know. Here's what we expect to see over the next 30 to 60 days. And then he said, hey, by the way, here's an opportunity for growth. I'm able to go bring that idea to the client, and they're going, this is awesome. They really care. They're looking out for me. They're trying to find ways for me to keep improving upon this effort and trying to make sure my dollars go further. So for us, we get excited about the reporting meetings because it's an opportunity for us to extend that campaign long before we approach the expiration date. Oftentimes, we're trying to kind of renew, extend, or add on within 6 weeks of a start. And most of our campaigns are 6 to 12 months right away. We don't really pitch anything less than that, unless it's a one-off situation. It's an event marketing, things like that. But we're really trying within that first 6 weeks to already be planting those seeds of what success looks like and looking for that kind of extension.
I wanted to ask real quick, if I may, you talk about your team feeling much more confident having these conversations because they're focused on the real conversions, articulating ROI and things like that. Tell us a little bit about yours and your team's experience, even some of those people who may have been a little bit hesitant at first to want to get into these. Tell us a little bit about the training that y'all went through. How is it that, you worked with AdCellerant to be able to digest these things? Because we all know how crazy digital is in general, how many different metrics and successes and all sorts of stuff. How are you able to do that?
Yeah, I think that it's a good question, man. I will tell you one of the things that helps us is that we have digital experts doing most of that. So we have people that specialize in digital because we realize that it's kind of a unicorn to understand the nuance of radio and media and this and this and this and this. But really more importantly for our digital team to feel even comfortable with that, because there's a lot to it. The transparent reporting is robust. So there's a lot to it. It took a while, but it was simply the training within AdCellerant, initially like the knowledge-based stuff, but then also the one-on-one meetings where we could ask those questions before we had a reporting meeting and say, here's what I'm seeing. Does this make sense? How would you explain this? What does this mean? It's been a series of conversations over time that we've been able to have, in particular on certain like tactics to better understand the reporting. So it's really those campaign managers and our account management team helping train us along the way. And then we can internally train our team too. So it's really a kind of a combined effort in helping make all of us feel confident, but it wasn't us on our own doing that by any means. It was me nudging Iggy or Jack and saying, hey guys, I need help. I've got this reporting meeting coming up. Here's what I'm seeing. Does this make sense? Or does this story seem to follow? Or am I missing the opportunity? Do you think there's a better chance? Should we change this or that? And it was being able to have conversations like that that have allowed us to, again, just retain and grow clients a lot faster than we planned on.
I think that's awesome. And so, obviously you guys did a lot of training with the AdCellerant team, what we're able to provide you to help make you a little bit more dangerous with those conversations, but it's almost like a perpetual training. It's never going to end. No. You're probably learning something new every day, every week, something like that. But I think it's also really important to understand how you are managing your team, Kelly. And it's not just about how AdCellerant's able to help you, because this is a partnership that we have. We couldn't work as well together if we didn't have you on your end doing those things. Do you have any just quick tidbits of advice that you would say when it comes to helping to get some legacy team members into selling more digital and just trying to become more comfortable with it?
Yeah, create an operations strategy internally. Have somebody that is your point person that is looking at operational efficiencies. I think the expectation sometimes, I know we went into a partnership with a white label, and part of it was initially we were going, okay, we can't just think that this means that we don't really have to do anything on our end. No, there's still kind of a certain level of stuff that we need to take a proposal and tweak it maybe a little bit, or add this or do this, or in a reporting, we need to maybe add a note here or there. Having an internal kind of plan. So we have like a project management system internally. As soon as we have a prospect, we create a folder and a set of tasks for follow-up, kind of like a CRM, right? And we have sort of a plan for that. And then once a client signs on, we set a certain number of tasks. And some of those tasks are just little things that we need to do within the AdCellerant platform that we can check off very quickly. Some of those are manual things that we do on our side over and above, but having that project management. And then in that project management, one of the tasks is set all the reporting meetings, set all of the checkup meetings, set up your quarterly check-ins. So making sure that you have a plan for how are you going to have really strong partnering principles with your client. Internally, you have to create that structure too. And it's only going to allow you, it has allowed our team to then focus on really leaning on AdCellerant to give us like expertise and help, rather than like leaning on you guys for operations and, things like that. So it's kind of helping us really take advantage of your expertise because we've sort of automated some of that other stuff that needs to happen.
I think that's incredible feedback. And I commend you on what you've done, because you've really set your team apart, and just seeing, just revenue growth as one metric here, but beyond that, the efficiencies that your team has and how quickly they're able to move. It's because you guys made the wheel once, but you're not reinventing it. You're just following that same process, and it's just rinse and repeat. And, from there, you're able to grow yourselves.
Yeah. And to speak to that, I think it's probably good to put it in perspective too. Our market sizes, our largest market has like a 3-county population of under 200,000. Most of our markets, that 3-county area of where the radio station cluster is less than 100,000. These are not big markets, but actually in a meeting with I was telling her, I said, yeah, actually last quarter, our average client monthly spend was $2,900. And so these are not big markets, but we're proposing things that get results. And so much of that is honestly learning from the AdCellerant team too, in some of the resources that you guys have provided on industry average spends and tactics that are used, understanding share of voice so that we can make sure that we're recommending appropriate spends to get the right amount of frequency in a tactic before we add another one. And so much of that has been our ability to lean on the AdCellerant team to help us understand what those asks should look like to actually get results. And so I think that part's been really valuable, and it's our revenue has more than doubled already, 3/4 of the way through the year since last year.
That is incredible.
That I love what you mentioned about, market size, because that's something, especially with, people who might be, looking at, they need to be more competitive, right? Maybe they've got a lot of competitors in their market, or they're thinking we're really small. We're a single station, right? Or we're a single television station, and our advertisers, they can't afford more than $500 a month, more than $700, more, whatever that number is. So I love that how your team is thinking about it and approaching it. It's completely different. It's what do you want to achieve the business and getting these results. And oh, by the way, here's some proven concepts, right? And case studies where we've seen this work out. And here is how we, Leighton, approach, supporting you with these reporting calls right after the gates, like having that be a part of your sales process, how you're differentiating. And then you're getting these larger deal sizes because you're taking on, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's a consultative approach. And you're elevating the client to think bigger and deeper and in other ways where they might not be thinking about. And that's why they lean on, these local advertisers. They go to the radio station, they go to their local broadcasters because they trust you and they experienced your results in the past. They've used your solution before. So taking that and then expanding it, in the digital space with what you all are doing. I absolutely love seeing that, and that you're winning, and you're also changing the mindset of your clients.
Yeah, and part of it is changing the mindset of our teams too, because a lot of them, the problem, and this is a historic problem in sales. I remember reading about it in Harvard Business Review and numerous other places, that we have a tendency as sellers sometimes too, you make proposals on your own financial comfort levels. And so sometimes there's a financial comfort level constraint, especially when we're talking about a radio seller who has historically maybe gotten $1,000 a month out of this client. And they're thinking they don't have enough budget left to do $2,000 on digital too. They're already spending $1,000 a month with me. But if we look at media dollars spent or marketing dollars, radio has historically carved out 14 to maybe 25% of clients' overall marketing budgets. So digital right now, based on recent Burrell data, digital accounts for 64% of marketing dollars. So really, the client probably does have that. And so that's kind of part of it too, is understanding that internally, what's available. And then again, trusting some of those third-party resources to help guide the recommendations that we make. Because if we give a client a recommendation where they're just kind of trickling their presence somewhere and they don't get results, we don't have any hope of retaining them. And that's probably one of the things that we've really learned quickly from AdCellerant in kind of these, there's a sheet that we use all the time, and we're using it in our account executive training, and it's average spends and primary tactics by industry. So it's auto usually spends this much, healthcare spends this much. And it's like, holy cow, we're not asking for enough. Because if they want to be competitive, this is where they need to be. And if our clients want to grow, we need to give them recommendations that are actually going to help them grow and compete. So I think that's part of it too, is being able to have an internal recognition of, okay, are we kind of putting our own constraint there in place that doesn't need to be there?
I wanted to touch on something real quick. You said you've been talking a lot over the last just 60 seconds about, competitive analysis that you're able to share with your clients to help them understand where they can, spend their dollars, or what the average should be to get a certain share of voice, to get a certain type of, conversion level, things like that. but I'd like to hear about you and your competitors, Kelly. This is actually a question that I didn't send to you beforehand. It just kind of came up. So I like shooting from the hip a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where Latent Engage is at now compared to where you were, say, middle of last year, 12 months down the road, in comparison to where your average deal sizes were, the amount of revenue that you had, how dangerous you felt like your team was, and where you're at now compared to 12 months ago.
Well, I'm glad you asked this question now and not 2 weeks ago, because we just finished quarterly planning. So I know the number off the top of my head, but our average deal size actually has grown 68% over last year.
Wait a minute. Wait, let me stop you. Did you just say your average deal size is up 68% over the last 12 months?
Yeah. And I will tell you, part of that is we've refined our prospecting too, to do a better job of understanding what clients fit our style best. We don't want transactional clients that don't care about the value that we're going to add and the types of conversations that we want. And that's maybe that is a differentiator from our competition. Some of our competition has scaled by having a high volume of clients, not just locally, but nationally, at a really low price point. And we're going in the other direction and saying, we don't really care about volume. We care about impact, and we care about retention, and we care about relationships and ongoing partnerships and growth within that partnership. So I would say that, if we looked at number of clients, our competition's kicking our butts. But if we looked at profitability and revenue, we're fighting a good battle right now for being kind of a newer player in the space. Just because we're carving out a different spot, and we're trying to help clients see that the reason why they were frustrated wasn't because they were spending too much or whatever. It's maybe they were doing random acts of marketing, and they didn't have a strategy because they were just buying what was put in front of them, or they weren't spending enough. You know what? Maybe the real problem is that you didn't spend enough money. So that's kind of been something that I would say has been a realization for us before we started with AdCellerant, and what helped us do a good job of kind of the interview process and the dating process of finding a provider was that we built a persona. So we built out marketing manager Morgan, and we said, here's what her average annual revenue is. Here's what she was looking for in a marketing partner. Here's what she wants. Here's what she fears. Here's what she's experienced. And so when we looked for a white label partner, we said, who is going to help us help marketing manager Morgan? Morgan or Maria? Why am I forgetting? Maria's our Latent Broadcasting, Morgan's Engage. And so we needed to figure out who was going to help us serve her. Now, I will tell you, there were other solutions providers that had lower CPM costs that I could buy this stuff at a cheaper rate, but I wasn't getting the same level of service to allow me to be able to help the clients that we wanted to.
So you didn't pick us based on how good me and Elizabeth look?
Well, I mean, he's got a kick butt jacket on right now. Her style was on point. That was pretty cool. That was an incentive for sure, Ben. But
I love that. Well, thank you so much for that positive feedback. I think that's really important. It's not about being first to market. It's not about, having the lowest price point, but when you show that you're committed to your clients, your advertisers, and you're treating them as a partner as well, it goes that much further. And I think just hearing a couple of those numbers that you spit out a few minutes ago is just absolutely incredible. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, absolutely. Wow. Last question. And I want to be, just respectful of everyone's time and see if there are any questions others might want to ask Kelly while we have you here on the line. But in terms of, advice, right? Best practices. You've mentioned a few kind of little nuggets through this, through this conversation about, would recommend, but for Engage, right? They're all fans. They're looking at solutions. They know they need to be better, right? They know they need to be doing other things, or, maybe it's more profitability. Maybe it's supporting clients. They knew maybe something has to change. What's your advice? How do you get them going?
One of the first things that was really important is, our company is not a massive company, but we're competing with really big media companies in some of our markets. So their business model is different than ours. We don't invest a whole bunch of money and indebt ourselves either sometimes in growing things like Late and Engage. We had to be profitable from day one. We didn't have a choice. So that meant I was the manager, the radio market manager of a cluster while first taking on the job as executive director of digital. We had to grow revenue to a certain point before we could justify it being a full-time position. That happened. And then we did these next steps, but find the person, whether it be internal or external. And I will say oftentimes in media companies, from my experience, it's somebody who has external experience outside of media sometimes, because they might not have that same financial constraint in their mind of what they maybe spent on radio or newspaper or TV, because this digital space is totally different. And find that person that can be your champion and that is going to drive your team. And you've got to have buy-in from every level of your organization in the growth of this. There has to be a commitment to it. And I think that, it took a long time for our organization to really get on board and not see the growth of this division as competition to radio. And we're still fighting that battle. That is not a battle that is going to die anytime soon. So it is an ongoing thing that we just have to recognize and understand. How do we sort of change the culture and the conversations around how does the competition now has to be people that are not helping clients with strategy, and people that aren't bringing client solutions, that are package sellers, or that are peddling one thing, or that aren't having those types of conversations, that aren't looking out for clients' best interests. That's our competition now. And so for us, that was the foundational piece that we had to have internally to be able to really help this grow. So that we weren't constantly fighting this battle of worrying about taking dollars from one or the other or whatever. It really just became more about a common goal of greater access to more client dollars in a budget and helping clients in a much bigger way.
That is incredible. I think it's that consultative approach that you guys have absolutely adopted to show them where, not just, what do clicks and impressions do, but how do we make a real impact on their business? What's moving the needle? What's making that cash register go ching, ching?
Yes.
I think that goes so far. Kelly, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation with you. I'm going to kind of wrap it up with Elizabeth here right now. I think I want to make sure we don't get too choppy here, but thank you so much for your time, your advice, your insights, and just being an advocate for the entire industry. On top of that, thank you so much for being an AdCellerant partner. I would love to give anybody, Kelly's information. I'm going to ask permission first.
Yes.
I'm kind of doing it right now. But she's obviously got what she's been doing locked in, dialed in completely. And so she's got a lot of this amazing tribal knowledge that she's able to share about how they're able to do it. So Kelly, thank you so much. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Elizabeth. We will send the recording. We will send the deck in follow-up. If there's any final questions, feel free to